First of all, we're going to start with pictures of galaxies here. And of course, I have a course. It's actually a course is DVD number 4. And it talks about galactic evolution and cosmology in general, showing you that the Big Bang did not happen, that the universe is part electrical and part gravitational, and you have to understand which is which. And galaxies are gravitational, which is very interesting, but they contain great symmetry. So take a look at the picture here and notice the arrows, and you'll see that on one side of the nucleus of course in the center, on one side of the nucleus you have maybe a concentration of stars. On the other side of the nucleus you have a similar concentration of stars, and the arms are very, very similar, even though they're separated by hundreds of thousands of light years. So the question is, how did the star structure on one side of the galaxy, how did that know what the other side was doing? And the standard science explanation for this is that there was a clump of matter, and some other clump of matter came in and somehow created a gravity wave, which spun off the galactic arms, etc. And it doesn't work in any respect. So anyway, what I came up with was a paper that actually was published in the peer-reviewed astrophysics journal. This was when I was at Cornell. In fact, the first of the series of papers that were published was in a journal called Astrophysics and Space Science. And it explained that the arms form by collapsing clouds of gas. And when they collapse, they spin and they cause pressure. So the gases that are down deeper in this compressed three-dimensional fluid flow, the only way they can escape is to come out in two arms, one on each side of the galactic nucleus. And so it's a spray, kind of like those lawn sprinkler systems that spray water on the lawn. They spin around, and the arms emanate, and they come out of the galactic nucleus. So let me see if I can, here's another example. And here's an example where I have the black arrows are the arrows representing what's called the density wave model, and the red arrows are representative of the actual measurements of the velocities of stars around the galactic nucleus. So you can see they're the opposite, and so it doesn't explain that. So what do? They create missing mass. This is where this dark energy and dark mass, dark energy and dark matter come from. This is the original concept because their theory for galactic evolution did not work. Okay, so here is the arrow structure, the velocity structure for my model, and it explains why the velocities in the light curves of the galactic arms are the way they are. In other words, the stars come out of the center and they orbit the nucleus of the galaxy. And this is a complicated gravitational problem. Most people would think that the stars that are in the arms are orbiting the nucleus, and it's not true. What they are orbiting is all the rest of the mass in the galaxy. It's a complicated integral problem, calculus and gravitational fields. And so at any rate, the point is, look at the symmetry in the galactic arms. That's the thing that's very important here. So here's just a picture of a galaxy without the arrows, without all the structure. And pick the nucleus. You can see the bright spot right in the middle. Go on one side and then the other, about the same distance, and you'll see that the arms are symmetrical. That's the point of this whole discussion, is to start off talking about the symmetry in nature. And by the way, welcome to the new studio. This is what I've been promising for a number of weeks. It took a little more time to put it together, and I had some professional help putting the design of this together. I'm not very good at decorating Christmas trees, but I had some professional help in decorating this, and so This will be like a fireside chat, unless I'm traveling on assignment someplace, then I'll be in the whatever studio we can arrange, or might be outside, outdoors. Okay, so here are some other galaxies. Once again, look at the symmetry. And the symmetry of this galaxy is offset by this small forming galaxy on the right side. But look at the symmetry once again. Look at, say, star clusters or lack of stars on both sides, and the red arms that extend out, etc., perfectly symmetrical. And so symmetry is something that we have to explain in physics. Here's another galaxy, a perfect example of, this is called a barred galaxy. The inner portion is like a bar, but once again, the symmetry in a galaxy is due to gravity. Very interesting, because when we get to the snowflakes in a minute, we're going to see that the symmetry in the snowflakes is due to electric fields. Something quite different, but still symmetry. Okay, so here's one more galaxy. Taking a look at this, look once again at the absolute amazing symmetry. And this is a galaxy that has multiple arms, which is completely possible. And you'll see that as the arms spin out of the nuclear area in this fluid flow, you can see the tremendous symmetry, and the arms emanating from the center of the region around the galactic nucleus gives you this symmetry. Okay, now I want to cap off this discussion. We've talked about snowflakes, crystalline designs, and there's some other crystals that form in nature. They're called diamonds. I want to relate this discussion to the formation of diamonds. And most people have the concept that diamonds form deep in the ground, and they're brought up by volcanic veins, and they come up in certain places around the world, and they're very rare. But the real story behind diamonds is very, very different. The real source of diamonds actually comes from outer space, and here's how it works. And by the way, they have discovered potentially planets, entire planets made out of diamond, and also rings around star systems that are diamonds, millions of diamonds circling these stars. And so where did this come from? And also the formation of diamonds in our own Earth environment. So here's what happens. And once again, in the laboratory, you can reproduce this. The diamonds are produced in the laboratory, and here's what they do. They take carbon, a block of carbon, in a rarefied atmosphere in a vacuum chamber to simulate outer space. Although they really didn't understand this, this is just one of the things people have discovered in the artificial formation of diamonds. And then you take, in this artificial vacuum environment of outer space, you vaporize the carbon. So now you have pure carbon in a vapor form, and you put in an electron beam. And what happens? It forms diamonds. So how does this happen in outer space? Well, the very same process, and I explained the vertical electric field is what charges the individual little particles that form the snowflake crystal. But in the case of the diamonds, they don't need that little particle to get started. They simply form, and it's a structure of the diamonds forming, and so anyway, here's what happens in outer space. This is on the nose side of a comet, and it's particularly large comets. What happens is that the comet is not a dirty snowball. Please, if you ever hear somebody saying that, the head of the European Space Agency and the chief scientist of NASA in 2018 got up on a podium and said, hey, comets are not dirty snowballs. And anybody still carrying on with that pathetic lie is sorry, but they must be doing it for a paycheck or just, but comets are the discharge of the solar capacitor. And if you've seen my previous shows, quite a few of them, I have the poster plasma discharge comet model. That's the comet model I developed when I was at Cornell in 1979 to 81, based on scientific data from space probes. But at any rate, here's what happens. The sun has an excess current of protons in the solar wind. It forms a capacitor. The nuclei of the comets are discharging this, and in that discharge, the bulk charge carrier is in the form of electrons. The same situation that creates the snowflakes with the little dust particle. But in the case of comets, you have, what else do you have around comets? You have carbon, rarefied carbon in atomic form. And so you have the exact same situation as you have in the laboratory environment where they're artificially creating diamonds. Very nice diamonds, by the way, without fractures, without all of the deformities that happen in nature. Okay, so at any rate, in the environment of the comet nucleus that's discharging the solar capacitor, you have the electron beam, you have the vaporized carbon, atomic carbon forming around the nucleus, and the conditions are right for the creation of diamonds. So the diamonds start to form, and they're just like the picture I showed of the quartz crystal. The way quartz crystals form typically is that in like a cave environment where there's humidity, and the atomic structure that makes up quartz is slowly builds up over time and creates that beautiful quartz crystal, or pyrite, or any of the other related crystals. And so in the case of comets and diamonds, now here's something that's in archaeology. When they discover the mastodons, for example, up on these rivers where the rivers are being eaten away by the currents, and they discover these mastodons which are impacted there, they died there in some great catastrophe, but the upper side is peppered with microdiamonds. And where did the microdiamonds come from? From a passing comet, a large, and these are not snowballs, remember. It's not something that hit Earth. These are comets that come by Earth, large comets, and have a bevy. A bevy is probably a minor word that could be used, but it has a entourage of diamonds, and so they're microdiamonds. So when they come into the atmosphere, they don't burn up, but the bones and flesh, if there's any flesh remaining on the mastodons, on the upper side they are peppered with microdiamonds, and that's where they come from. There's some, by the way, I have to get this in the last minute of this show, because every show I talk about rampant disinformation. If you hear anybody on radio shows, and it's becoming rampant these days, if you hear anybody talking about the Younger Dryas period, or that's a period of 11,000 years ago, when supposedly the Earth had all kinds of changes or impacts, it's garbage. It's just plain garbage. That's all I can tell you. Because we know for a fact that there were many Earth-changing environmental events in the last 5,000 years. The Noah's flood may have been outside of that, but just by a little. But when Solon, the Greek, went back to talk to the priest cults in Egypt, they said that there have been 5 major disruptions of civilization in the past 10,000 years. And what these people are doing, talking about Younger Dryas, is they're saying, oh no, all of these events happened at once 11,000 years ago, which is out of sight, out of mind. And so it's really complete disinformation. And it's being pounded on the airwaves on large talk show hosts. I just want to let you know that and one of the factors they talk about are the diamonds. And so the diamonds come from plasma discharged comets, not from some ice ball hitting the Greenland ice cap. How does water hitting water create diamonds? Nobody can explain that. So at any rate, we'll talk to you next week.